Batman Arkham City, probably the game of the franchise that's widely regarded as the best for a multitude of different reasons. Well, today, I want to put a little bit of fuel on the fire and ask a question: is Batman Arkham City actually that good? But before we get into that, I wanted to start this off actually by saying I have an announcement. I finally have a day where we are going to play all 4 Batman Arkham games in one day. I've been talking about this for a while now. For those of you who are subscribed would know that I've been planning to do a live stream where I play all 4 games in one day. So I've had to come up with a date where I can get time off work, and I'll just have the full day to do so. So, drum roll please. It'll be on April 19th of this year, 2025. So hopefully you're not watching this next year or something. But I do want to say April 19th is going to be the day that happens. I just got to get the time off work and stuff. I need a time in advance to be able to book it off and stuff. That's the only reason why it's going to be so far ahead. So yes, April 19th, that is the day it's going to be going down. So guys, make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to get that going. And I'm going to try to get more live streams and stuff going on a weekly basis anyway, because I think you guys deserve that. Try to come up with some sort of schedule. I got something down that I want to try to do like 2 videos a week, do 1 live stream a week for the time being until I can basically create more time to make more videos. So essentially that is the best I'll be able to do, while being able to keep up a consistent schedule. Because I'd rather do 2 videos a week consistently than like 1 video a week here, 4 a week here, 0 a week here. I want to keep it consistent for you guys. You guys deserve the best. So, without wasting any more of your time, let's get into the video. I mostly want to break this video down into 2 different things, because I think there's 2 main things that I want to break down. And in the future, if you guys want, I can go over the side missions of this game and kind of just talk about whether or not these are any good or not. We can maybe do something like that. But side missions are going to be held off for another day, because the side missions in this game are good. But today, I mostly wanted to talk about the main story involving Hugo Strange and the Joker and all that stuff, and the actual combat on this game. Because I have some opinions that may be considered hot takes, may not be considered hot takes. I don't really know what the general consensus is on some of this. It's kind of a mixed message. But this game, like I said before, is highly regarded as the best Batman Arkham game in the entire franchise for multiple good reasons. So, first things first, I want to cover the story, because the story is where it's generally a mixed bag, where some people think it's kind of a wild goose chase, while some other people think it's, very, very good, and it's meant to be chaotic for a reason. And I kind of stand somewhere in the middle. This story by no means is perfect, right? And that's okay. There's no such thing as a perfect story. There is no such thing as the perfect game. At least not in my opinion. Every game makes mistakes. However, I can see the point where people say that this game is kind of like a wild goose chase. You're pretty much just running around for most of the game trying to find a cure for the Joker, right? And for yourself, and that's why you have to do it, because he's poisoned you, right? And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but it feels like to me this entire Joker blood plot has kind of felt like filler in a sense. It feels like filler while we're waiting for Protocol 10 to start, because for some reason, Hugo Strange wants to wait 10 hours to start it. And I think that's just so we can have some time to play the game and let the plot lines develop. I think that's the only reason why he's waiting so long. And I don't mind the fact he's waiting so long, because maybe stuff like this would take a lot of time to organize. I understand it, whatever. But, like I said, the Joker blood plot line kind of just feels like filler while we wait for Protocol 10 to start, which kind of leads me into another issue that some people do have with this game, and me personally as well, I also kind of have an issue with this, is the fact that this game kind of is meant to be, Hugo Strange is meant to be the main antagonist, but it turns into the Joker show, just like future games do as well. And it's easy to do that because the Joker is such a marketable character, he's such a unique individual and such an interesting human being, that it kind of makes it easy to have him take over and be the star of the show. And if you want to get like really, really nitpicky, an issue I do have for the story as well is the fact that Hugo Strange literally knows Batman's identity and says that if Batman tries to stop him, he will reveal Batman's secret. Yet Batman is like actively trying to stop him throughout the course of the game, and yet Hugo Strange just doesn't do anything about it whatsoever. He doesn't even threaten him. He doesn't even remind him like, remember, I know your identity. Like, there's no part of him at any point that even tries to warn him about the fact that he knows Batman's identity. But that's being a bit nitpicky. Like, it's not the end of the world, because I understand if Batman's identity gets revealed, it's kind of just game over, and there's not really anywhere to go with the Batman Arkham franchise going forward. So I kind of understand the idea of that, personally, and I kind of wish Hugo Strange had more screen time, though, because I understand he's kind of just a guy who's like a puppet for Ra's al Ghul in a way, and he's kind of doing the work behind the scenes, so that's why we don't get to see much. But I would like to see more of him in some sort of capacity, you know? Batman Arkham Asylum did something that was really, really unique, and something that made you be able to see the main villain on a consistent basis, right? Using those TVs, using those monitor screens that Joker would hack into and record himself doing whatever he was doing, talk about whatever he's talking about. But you see him on a regular basis, and that kind of keeps you intrigued and makes you motivated to keep going after him, to keep wanting to stop him. The only thing that we hear from Hugo Strange throughout the course of the game is Protocol 10 will commence in 80 hours. Like, whatever, that doesn't really make me motivated. I understand the point of that is to make you anticipate, like, oh, we're getting closer to Protocol 10. Protocol 10's gonna happen soon. But you're not actually physically seeing him. You're hearing, like, a few words from him every so often. It's a bit different when you actually get to see him physically on the actual screen, like you pretty much do towards the end of the game. However, that's me being, like, pretty nitpicky. I do still enjoy the overall story of this game. I do still enjoy the boss fights. The Ra's al Ghul and the Mr. Freeze are two of the best boss fights in the entire franchise, which that's more gameplay related, but it's also story related as well. So I do kind of actually rate those certain instances. Of course, with the Joker dying and everything in this game, it kind of is, it's a very impactful ending and probably has the best ending out of the entire franchise. I know some people might say the ending to Arkham Knight was really good, and it was, but I think the Joker dying just has a more impact because the Joker is, like, so alive. It's like you almost can't believe that he would actually die in any sort of context. But you know what actually makes a good story game overall? It's not the characters necessarily, it's not the gameplay necessarily. There's only really one thing that comes down to whether or not a game is actually good. And that's if you enjoy playing it and you're actually actively engaged the entire time. Because what's good and what's not is ultimately subjective. It kind of comes down to what you think, what you like. And there could be an awful game that so many people hate, but if you enjoy it, then to you, that is a good game. And that is the most important thing that I think people miss out on sometimes. That because some people think that something's bad, therefore everyone else needs to think it's bad. It's like, no, hold on a second. Everyone's entitled to what they believe. And Batman Arkham City is a game where I could sit there and play for hours and not get bored, right? I've played it on live stream. I played the entire game in one sitting, was not once bored. I was consistently engaged throughout the entire thing, and I had a lot of fun doing so. And I think that that's the most important thing. So even though the story's not perfect, it does have its flaws. It also does have some really, really interesting moments throughout the course of the game that really do a good job of keeping me extremely entertained, right? The only part of the story that I look at and I'm like, I'm not really a big fan of that, is the 3 jammer things that you have to break before you break into the museum to get Penguin. That's like the only time in the game where I'm like, I'm not really a big fan of this. Outside of that, I am very actively engaged throughout the course of the entire game. So, if you were to ask me, is Batman Arkham City's story really that good? Yes, because it keeps me engaged. It doesn't matter that Joker takes front and center. I don't mind that personally. It doesn't matter that the Joker plot line feels like filler, that we don't get to really see much of Hugo Strange. None of that matters ultimately because I have such a fun time and such a fun experience playing this game that I don't care about the rest of that stuff surrounding it. Moving on to the combat aspect of things, the combat in this game, in my opinion, first of all, was a great step up from Batman Arkham Asylum, right? Because Batman Arkham Asylum's was decent, hasn't aged the best, but it was decent, and it was way ahead of its time. And Batman Arkham City improved everything tenfold. Like, everything was so much better, right? And I know that people say Batman Arkham Knight's combat is the best. And technically, yes, it is. Batman's a lot more fluid in that game. You know, the gadgets, all that stuff. The stealth's a lot better with better enemy types and all that. I understand all that stuff. That's all well and good. However, I will make a counter argument that Batman Arkham City is on a very similar level to Batman Arkham Knight for different reasons, though. It kind of comes down to what you are personally into and what your personal taste is. And for me, my personal taste is a bit more basic, right? I'm not someone who needs all the flash and all the extra gadgets and whatever. I think in this game, the gadgets were done the best personally. And I know that's something that Under the Mail had said in his video, and I was probably a bit harsh on him about, but I understand his point now in hindsight, kind of looking at that entire situation, with the gadgets and everything. The gadgets were introduced very well. But not just that, there isn't so many of them to the point where it feels like it's overused and kind of makes everything too easy. You still have some difficulties, and some challenges within Batman Arkham City. It doesn't feel like it's super easy. Because in Batman Arkham Knight, sometimes it felt like the combat was a bit too easy. You have so many gadgets, you have so much to work with. Batman is so overpowered, fear multi-takedowns, all that stuff, that it made the combat a lot less challenging. In Batman Arkham City, it is a lot tougher. Because first of all, the enemies themselves are tougher to defeat. But secondly, Batman isn't like so overpowered to the point where it's either A, unrealistic, or B, boring. And Batman in that game, I really like playing the combat in that game personally because the gadgets are very simple. It's very easy to use. There's only like a select few that you really have that you really need. And that's all well and good for me. And the upgrades and stuff that you could get throughout the course of the game as it starts to get more difficult and everything, I like all that. That stuff's all fantastic. And the combat does keep you actively engaged. Now, the stealth in that game is relatively easy, but that's also because, to be fair, I've played Batman Arkham City so much. I've played the Batman Arkham games so much. So of course it's going to be a bit easier for me. However, that doesn't mean that I'm also still not engaged the entire time while I'm playing it. The combat in that game flows really well. Like, Batman himself works really well. But again, he's not so easy to the point where... so easy to use, I should say. To the point where he's either overpowered or boring. I actually enjoy it. Now, there isn't really a lot else I could say on the combat without it being too repetitive, or without me just spinning my wheels and going in circles over and over again. So, after talking this through, is Batman Arkham City really that good? Well, the answer is abso-freaking-lutely. This game is amazing from top to bottom, and if you guys want me to go through the side missions in the future, just let me know down in the comments. I can absolutely go over them, tell you which ones are the best, which ones you should probably avoid, or are just boring or the worst in general. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you guys think of Batman Arkham City down in the comments. Should I go over the other Batman Arkham games? I wanted to start off with the one that people regard as generally the best. And I wanted to see, is it really worth the hype or is it overhyped? It's absolutely worth the hype. If you guys haven't played Batman Arkham City, I mean, I probably should have said spoilers in the beginning, but whatever. Please, go play that game. It's a lot of fun. You'll have a blast. I promise you. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!